Ferguson is your leading partner for residential and commercial plumbing with a vast inventory of products, tools, and supplies. Kicking off a project at home? Start with Ferguson Bath, Kitchen, and Lighting Gallery. Ferguson's Tinley Park showroom stocks plumbing repair parts, plumbing fixtures, lighting fixtures, appliances, and more. Their plumbing counter and showroom give you selection and helpful guidance for both homeowners and contractors. Visit Ferguson's Tinley Park location on 185th Street or find a convenient Chicagoland location near you at Ferguson.com.
Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to the Prepare to Repair show here on WJOL 1340. I am your host, Plumber Steve with RJ Graham Plumbing. And joining me in studio today is Mr. Bob Krupske with Krupske Sprinkler Systems out of Piatone, is it?
Piatone.
Excellent, excellent. And it's springtime, so we are going to be talking basically lawn sprinklers, and you're also a plumbing inspector and a member of the IPIA.
That's correct. Okay. Plumbing inspector, Mokina, New Lenox, and Homer Glen.
Awesome. So we got a lot to talk about. We're going to try and fit as much as we can into our 1 hour show. But today's show is, and the Prepare to Repair show is today's, and every other show is brought to you by Ferguson Supply Kitchen, Bath, and Lighting Showroom, located at 7950 West 185th Street in Tinley Park. Whether you're doing a minor facelift or a full kitchen remodel, Ferguson has you covered. And before we get to Bob, and you could probably kind of touch on this, we were talking about this off the air. A few weeks ago, we were talking about lien waivers and talking about just control of your job. And just recently, we had I'd say within the last year or so, we had a contractor not pay us for a remodel that he did. And there was a couple of them, and we wound up, unfortunately, putting a lien on the property that we did the work for. And, well, apparently the homeowners now want to refinance. So, and that's what takes me to the lien waivers, and this is what brought me to that whole conversation or whole discussion we had about that, is when you have a contractor that's doing the work and you're making payouts, you want lien waivers from those subs that they got the money, that they got paid, so that everything is free and clear, that you're all good.
And good contractors won't have a problem giving lien waivers.
Exactly. So when you have control of the money, you control your job a lot better than you pay the contractor doesn't pay the subs, then what happens is now you're paying twice.
Yep.
Which unfortunately may happen in this case, which is frustrating because I don't want to see that, happen, but it can. And lien waivers, I don't care how small of a job that you have, if you have multiple contractors on this particular job, getting a lien waiver just to protect yourself, even if it's a couple $1,000s, that right there helps you not pay a couple $1,000s again.
Yeah.
That's just that's my opinion on that. And I think that, I always say the more control you have in your hands as a homeowner, you control the money, you control the job. And any contractor, like you said, they will not have a problem with you giving you a lien waiver for any work that's done as you progress through the project. So that's, I wanted to touch on that because that's something that kind of hit every week I kind of get some information that happens to us that I want to, show fodder, so to speak. But and another post I put out, and this is going to go on yours, touch on you, is I was telling people that people need to get excited over the spring fever. We get this really nice weather. They get excited. They connect their hoses to their spigots, and they start washing their cars, and they forget about them. And then what do we have this week?
Yeah, freezing temperatures.
Drop down to the 20s, and that's all it takes.
Yeah. We always wait until April to start turning on sprinkler systems, just for that reason. They get a first 70-degree day in March, and everybody's calling up and looking to get it turned on, and we try to talk people out of that.
Well, that's exactly what we were just talking about off the air. It's like, how many times have you watched baseball and you saw at Wrigley the Cubs playing and it's snowing, or the Sox playing and it's over in Comiskey Park, as I'm still going to call it. I'm not going to call it guaranteed rate.
Right.
So how many times have you seen, they're playing long sleeves and they got snow in April. So you still get that, and you risk having that time there where it freezes.
Yeah.
Now, when you're doing you said you do your spring startups, you usually do them around April, you said?
Yeah, we start usually the first week of April, and that's for people that insist that they have to have it early. So, we don't like to turn them on if there's a chance of freezing temperatures, because the backflow device is going to be the first thing that freezes, and that's the most expensive part of your system. Yeah,
they're not cheap, especially with the way materials have gone up.
Yeah, 40% in the last 2 years.
Yeah, those things are, I want to say, they're almost $500 now.
Yeah.
Or, 1 inch, and most of your standard RPZs out there are 1 inch.
Yep.
So now when you take me through a startup, when you're doing a startup, you get a call out for it. What exactly can one expect when they're having that done?
So a spring startup is basically getting out there, rehooking up the backflow device that was removed for the wintertime, so it didn't freeze. Okay. And then we, after we hook that up, we go back inside the house, turn the water on, and check for leaks in the plumbing system, make sure there's no problems. And then once that's done, then we'll start turning on all the sprinkler zones and start checking each zone independently to make sure that there's no cut pipes, broken heads, and we check everything to make sure that it's all spraying the correct way.
Now, what is a zone? So if I'm a homeowner and I just moved into this house, I've got myself an irrigation system. I have no idea. I've never had an irrigation system. I just had, my kid go out there with the hose and move it and get himself wet. And, a little to the left, you're watering the sidewalk. Come on, can't you do it right? What's wrong with you? That sort of deal.
So basically, your zones are different areas, different types of sprinkler heads that are zoned off together. The 1 inch water line that typically feeds most homes isn't enough to water everything at one time. So you can only run so many heads, depending on the type of heads, at a time. So most houses in our area out here on the south side are going to be anywhere from 6 to 10 zones for an average lot.
Okay. All right. And when you go through that, what can they expect? Like perfect scenario versus a worst case scenario on a startup.
Okay, perfect scenario. You turned everything on, you went through everything worked as it was supposed to, no problems, no cut pipes, no heads not knocked off or anything. Everything just works. One that you might have a problem with is snowplow might have drove up inside the parkway and knocked off a couple sprinkler heads out by the curb. And so now we have to change those, broken sprinkler heads. There's usually not problems with any cut pipes or anything unless there was digging done in the yard. So that's usually about it. Sometimes the electric valves, a solenoid may have gone bad, so you might have to change an electric solenoid valve.
Okay. Now you were mentioning that when a previous winterization is done, that there is the possibility if somebody hasn't done it correctly and they use, say, higher pressure or higher air pressure, that you could have, that can cause an issue with your heads that you'll see, you won't notice right away, but you'll notice come springtime.
Correct. So any system that needs to be blown out with air, the manufacturers all state that you use high volume and low pressure. And a lot of times you'll get the unscrupulous contractors that are looking for extra work in the springtime to make more money. They'll go ahead and they'll use high air pressure to blow out a sprinkler system. And they let it run for a long time. All air, as it's running through the pipes, creates friction, which in turn causes heat. And they'll blow out the system, and the heads will pop up, and they'll rotate like crazy back and forth, pumping out hot air. All the gears inside the sprinkler heads are nylon gears. So what happens is those nylon gears, they start to melt. And the head is rotating. As soon as it shuts off, it goes back down into the ground. Those gears that melted will fuse together. So now in the springtime, you'll have, so many heads that don't rotate. And if that happens to you year after year, it's probably because of improper blowouts.
Really? And what lubricates those gears to keep them going?
So normally, all the heads now are water lubricated. Years past, they used to be oil lubricated gear cases, but now everything is water lubricated.
So now when you blow the air through it, creates heat, friction, and melts it together.
Correct.
That's interesting. Okay. That's now, upon that, when you're doing the startup, You also have the RPZ. Is that when you do the RPZ test as well?
Yes. Yeah, the RPZ test, when you turn the system on in the springtime, the RPZ has to be recertified to make sure that it still holds back pressure. The RPZ is important because a lot of the irrigation systems now, they'll have a fertilizer injector system. They'll have a mosquito system that injects through the lawn sprinkler system. And then also any debris that's on the ground, dog droppings, fertilizer, when it rains out, the sprinkler heads don't have a one-way valve on them. So when it floods in an area, water that comes out of a sprinkler head, water can get back into the same hole that it comes out of and fill up inside the piping. That backflow device is going to stop any of that water in the piping from getting back into the domestic drinking water.
Okay.
So it's very important that backfill device be certified. It is a law, and it has to be tested annually.
Well, a lot of people are frustrated by that. They're just, why do I have to get this thing every year? It's just, they get frustrated. They feel it's an additional expense that they don't necessarily see the benefit of, and it's basically just another way to get my money.
Yeah, I mean, the backflow, it is a law, so, I mean, we don't have a say-so in it, but I understand their frustration. It's no fun paying that money year after year, but if you take into account that it only takes one time for something to backflow, to contaminate your water or your neighbor's water, it's worth the money.
Now, you were saying that something about a mosquito additive?
Yeah, with all the irrigation systems that have these backflow devices, the RPZs that are on them, it's the highest form of backflow protection you can get. Now, with that backflow device, a lot of the companies, aftermarket companies, they came out with irrigation fertilizer systems or mosquito solutions that you can put through your sprinkler system.
Really?
Yeah. When a sprinkler system turns on, it runs a water-powered pump that siphons the water out of a gallon jug and siphons the chemicals, and it applies it then to the water that's going out over the lawn.
It's interesting that you say that because I was at a house for a tankless water heater repair, and he asked me to look at this. And again, I don't really know too much about sprinklers. I mean, we did it for a little while, but that wasn't an area that I did. We had a gentleman that was doing that. And I saw a setup that they had where it was because they had iron in the water and they rusted in the water. There was a chemical solution that they had. It was a barrel that worked, like you said, like it.
Yep, that's a Riddle Rust system. It's made by American Hydro. And basically that is a 30-gallon injection system, and it injects a Riddle Rust formula into the water. And the iron that's in your water from your well, if you don't have that on there, everything turns orange outside. So all your concrete, your retaining walls, it all turn orange from the irrigation water. When you add that system to it, the chemicals that you inject into the water, it chelates and bonds with the iron molecules in the water. And it prevents the iron from ever oxidizing. Okay. So the iron is still there, it just never turns orange. Okay. So, and the chemicals run on typically people that have wells, they have a bigger lot. So on a 1 acre lot, the chemicals run you about $100, $140 a month.
Okay. Well, this gentleman had, I think he was on city water, so he didn't have a well. But I'm going to have to send you his information because he had that system there, and I wasn't familiar with it. Yep. You're listening to Plumber Steve with RJ Graham Plumbing and Bob Krupske with Krupske Sprinkler Systems on the Prepare to Repair show on WJOL 1340. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back after this.
Plumbing.com.
Welcome back. Your dreams were your ticket out.
Welcome back to the Prepare to Repair show. I am your host, Plumber Steve with RJ Graham Plumbing. You're listening to the Prepare to Repair show on WJOL 1340. Back here with Bob Krupske with Krupske Sprinkler Systems. And before the break, we were talking about the irrigation system and the backflow, the RPZs and the testing, and also the additives that could be installed on the irrigation system for mosquito
fertilizing and for rust.
Wow, I didn't know that. That is really that's really interesting because I just thought that, again, like I said, I don't do this. It's I thought it was just for the sprinkler, just to keep water from backflow, and you're good to go. But this is there's a whole science and methodology behind this.
Yep.
So that's pretty cool. So now, when like I said, we were talking about, the startups and the backflow checks. Now, obviously, what if somebody's like, okay, I'm listening to what you're saying about these systems, and again, I'm tired of, I don't want to have my kid out there with the sprinkler moving it around the yard and doing doing what they're doing and yelling at them. I want to get a new install.
Okay.
So
typically, you want to, for choosing a contractor, you want to get a contractor that has experience.
Okay.
And by experience, meaning that, he's been in business 5 years at least, that he has all the workman's comp, liability insurances, that he's bonded, licensed, insured. So, that's the most important thing. The contractor, there's certifications that they would need in Illinois. Every irrigation contractor or irrigation employee must be licensed by the Illinois Department of Public Health. So in order to install lawn sprinkler systems, you need a contractor number, which is an 060 number.
Oh, that's for irrigation.
That's for irrigation. Okay. And then anybody that he employs has to have a registration for irrigation employee, which is an 062 number.
Really?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, it's similar to a plumbing license where you have your 055,
yep,
and then your journeyman will have a 058, and then their apprentice will have a 056.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And it's funny because you saying that you should probably hire a licensed, reputable contractor to be able to do this. I've heard that somewhere. I think I may have said that a time or two.
Yep.
But now, the thing is, there's so many people out there. And it's with plumbing. It's with everything out there, from tile to drywall to painting to cabinetry, countertops. I mean, flooring. You name it. There's electrical. There's contractors out there doing, and there's many that are phenomenal.
Yep.
And there's also many that are not very good. Now, when you're looking for a contractor, I've learned, and this is just me personally, and you can give me your opinion on it, is I would rather go with a company that's been around for a while. And the reason why I say that is, if anything happens, if I go with a company, I make a phone call. A reputable company is going to guarantee it.
Yep.
A reputable company is going to stand by it. If I have an issue, they're going to take care of it. If I hire a person on the side, or say, a one person in a truck or whatever, and that's great,
yeah, you're going to get it cheaper, but they're trying to get a hold of them to come out and do something. It's going to be on their time, not your time.
Well, that's what it is.
Or on your time, not their time. And it's not good to buy cheap always, just because, cheap is not quality. So, and you don't know what you're getting.
Well, not only that, but I mean, even if they were, say, comparable, it's the, well, what if I have an issue and you're out of town?
Yeah.
Or you're not feeling well.
Yep, you're dealing with one guy.
You're dealing with one person, or if it's a side job person, you're going to get in where you fit in. Mm-hmm. You're going to get in right behind their job.
Yep.
You're going to get in right behind their family time and everything that they like to do.
Yeah.
And I'm a firm believer is you're going to get a bunch of excuses at that point when you need them when you need them to come back that you didn't get or you didn't give them. Yep. When it came time to pay that bill.
Yeah, and if there's a problem, if they don't know how to fix it, there's nobody else above them that's going to come out and repair a problem as well.
Exactly, exactly. And that's why having a group of people or having a company that's been around for a while that has a group of people that if they're going to always have somebody there to do it.
Yeah.
And that's crucial.
Yep.
And also, I'm a little bit concerned. I want to kind of bring this up to you and see what your opinion was. Is you have, with the economy starting to go, I notice as people start to slow down, because I'm on some plumbers groups on Facebook, and a lot of people are saying they're slowing down. And my concern is with other trades slowing down, a lot of these people start to take on jobs that they normally wouldn't do,
yep,
and they normally should not do.
Yeah. Yeah, the unqualified and the guys that don't have the experience that will jump into the business, it is a problem.
Right.
Because, especially in irrigation too. Like irrigation, we take it very seriously. You have to have a good design on your irrigation system. Right. And if you don't know how to design systems, you're not going to put in a good system. Just because I could throw 5 rotors on a zone, it does not mean it's the same as a 5-rotor zone from anybody that's working out of the trunk of their car. It's not the same thing. There's an irrigation on the design. You have to have match precipitation on all of your sprinkler heads. You want good head-to-head overlap, and designing out a sprinkler system versus just somebody that throws in an irrigation system. My system will save 50% more water.
Okay, you went with match precipitation.
And
then you had something before that. Okay. When you're talking about designing zones, you just went right over my head and everybody else.
Sorry about that.
Okay, so when you're designing this and you're putting this system together,
yep,
you need each head to get as much flow on the third end or fourth end as the one on the first one.
Correct.
So you have to design it that way.
Yep.
Correct. And also you want these to run efficiently.
Yep.
So you're not an overlap. I would say that's the overlap.
Yeah, the overlap, manufacturers say head-to-head overlap.
Right.
But we also take into account, the soil conditions. If you have a lot of clay, the clay isn't going to absorb the water as quickly as black dirt. So then you put the water down at a slower application rate, and you let it maybe in water for 20 minutes and then come back and do another 20 minutes so you get cycle and soak. So the water that comes out of that head then might, take 40 minutes to put down a third of an inch of water, but all that third of an inch of water is going to be soaked into the soil. It's not running down the curb.
Okay. Well, I have a little bit, another couple questions on this, especially with if I have a well application. But you're listening to the Prepare to Repair show on WJOL 1340 with me, Plumber Steve, with RJ Graham Plumbing, and with Bob Krupske with Krupske Sprinkler Systems. And we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back after this.
Welcome back. Your dreams were your ticket.
Welcome back to the Prepare to Repair show here on 1340 WJOL. I am your host, Plumber Steve, and back with me is Mr. Bob Krupske with Krupske Sprinkler Systems. And before the break, we were talking about the design of a new system, and my question I had is if I have a well system, can I get one of these? Can I get a new system, or what kind of challenges does a well, if I'm on well water, what does that do?
So the well, we just have to know what the well is producing, how many GPM or gallons per minute,
okay,
and the pressure. So a lot of the times we can kick the well pressure up. So, and it's just, that's pretty simple to do. So, but we need a minimum at the sprinkler head of 30 pounds pressure. And that's the minimum from operating ranges from 30 to 70. Now, the wells, most wells are set at a 40 and 60 pressure switch inside the home.
Right.
So when we have an irrigation system, though, the backflow device, the RPZ, stands for reduced pressure zone valve. So you lose 12 pounds pressure going through that valve. Then we lose another 4 pounds pressure going through an electric valve in the ground, another 4 pounds of pressure for 100 foot of pipe. So on an irrigation system, typically, whatever your starting pressure is, you're going to get about 30 or 20 pounds of pressure loss by the time you get out to your sprinkler heads.
Wow.
So we need, in most cases, city water or well water, we're going to need roughly 50 pounds as the minimum.
Okay. Now, if you on a well system, or even just say any house, if you need that, if I'm running, say I have a larger home with multiple bathrooms, am I going to notice any significant pressure loss with my irrigation system running in the house?
So typically on the irrigation design, we'll try to design it out at 60% of the available water. So you'll have enough to run your shower, flush a toilet, your dishwasher, and your sprinkler system all at the same time.
All right, so you're not going to notice any loss on that?
Maybe a little bit, but not much.
Okay. Now, the other question is, now we're talking about installs and versus, and I was making a joke, is, you go out there with your sprinkler, you have your kid go out there and do it, and then they go and play a game, and then they forget about it, and you wonder why one part of your lawn looks
beautiful.
It looks beautiful. It's growing great, and the other part looks like, the desert, and because, he forgot about it for 4 hours, and you wonder why your water bill's so high. Now, when you get a system like this, and people are thinking this is going to cost me a lot of money in water, it's going to cost me a lot of money to do this type of system.
Yep.
What would you say to that? I mean, what would be your if you're talking to a homeowner and they have those concerns, what would you say?
Well, I mean, if you're going to get a sprinkler system versus hose watering is 20 to 30% efficient. That's it.
Okay.
Average irrigation system in the United States, according to Irrigation Association statistics, the average system is about 50% efficient. That's it. So even though you have an irrigation system, it's still wasting half the water. When you get into the newer technologies with smart timers and everything else that are programming themselves based on weather conditions, you can get your system up into the 75, 80, 90% range, on efficiencies.
So if you spend a little bit of due diligence on designing and the proper system for what you have and getting the right one, it may be a little bit more expensive, but with the price of water
is very costly. So,
you can get what you want and save money on that water.
Correct. Yeah, when you consider every sprinkler system, most irrigation on residential homes are designing them out around 12 gallons a minute. So that's 720 gallons of water an hour, going out. So a typical yard might take 4 hours to water. It's 3,000 gallons of water. And at most villages, it's $10 a thousand to water your grass. So you're talking $30 to water your grass one time. If you got a system that's 50% efficient, $15 of it just went down the drain.
Okay. Well, people are looking at that meter going...
Exactly. Water is so expensive.
Well, okay. So when you're again, if I'm getting a system like this, how do I know? I mean, again, like with anything, and I tell people with plumbing and anything else, I don't know enough to know what I don't know.
Correct.
So what questions should I be asking if I'm looking to get a irrigation system on my house rather than, lugging the hose around and the sprinklers and so forth?
I mean, really, the certifications, are big. If you get a contractor that has Irrigation Association certifications for certified irrigation designer, certified irrigation contractor, certified landscape irrigation auditor, those accreditations are very hard to get. And if you get those accreditations, you know what you're doing. Okay. So look for contractors that are listed on the IA's website in your area. And that's the Irrigation Association. So,
fantastic. Okay.
Yeah. The irrigation license for Illinois, the 060 number, basically, it doesn't mean you're a good contractor. It doesn't mean you're certified. Basically, that 060 number means you meet the requirements for irrigation, that you've done your 4 hours continuous education, and you passed a 2-day course in irrigation. I'm one of the educators for the state of Illinois. So most of the contractors have to come to one of my CEU classes to maintain their license or to achieve that first 2-day initial course. And that course is super easy. I never failed anybody. I don't want to put anybody out of business. So it's basically, will the heads pop up and spray water? And are they aware that there are license laws in Illinois? And do they know that the backflow must be tested? That's pretty much the brunt of the 2-day course.
Well, what I've said, I tell people, I say, okay, I always stress on getting licensed people, checking licenses, verifying it. State has all this on their website as far as checking plumbers' licensing and so forth. But that's half the battle.
Yeah.
Because just because they're licensed doesn't mean they're good.
Correct.
It means that they have a minimum, they show a minimum level of competency as directed or as stated by the state of Illinois. Now you have to continue your diligence in finding the best.
Yeah.
So
references, if you can get references, that's the best, advice that you're going to get is you got 5 or 10 people that had somebody do something and they're happy with them, go with that guy over, somebody that's, this guy's super cheap.
Right.
That has no references.
Well, again, you want somebody that is good because, pricing is relative to what you're getting. And I always say, look at the value of what you're getting. Mm-hmm. If you pay for something and you get nothing beyond it, you pay just for that specific task or item, and anything beyond that, you're done.
Yeah, you get a tail light warranty.
Exactly. Yeah. And the tail light warranty is basically your warranty is only as good as you can see the tail lights in the driveway. So, and that's, and again, there's some companies that do that. I don't want to guarantee anything. And the bottom line is when you are hiring somebody, you want a warranty.
Correct.
Good, solid, reputable companies will warranty their products.
Yep.
I warranty my water heaters for minimum 6 years. My tankless, 5-year warranty. Labor and the product. So I make sure that that's taken care of like that. And obviously, when you do your systems, what kind of warranty do you give on a new system?
So we give 5 years on our products that we install. Lifetime warranty on the self-draining freeze protection of the system. So that's lifetime.
Okay. Now, see, that right there is what I preach on this show all the time, is warranties. Because when you buy a good product from a good company and that's been around, how long have you been in business?
So the company started in my father in 1976. I took it over in 1985.
Okay. You've been doing this a while.
I've been doing this a long time.
Okay. So basically, it's safe to say that if somebody paid you, say, a few, I don't even know what they run, okay, I'm going to use hypothetically, couple grand to put in a system, you're not going to fiendishly laugh and rub your hands and run away going, hee, I got $2,000, I'm happy.
Yeah, no.
It isn't worth it. You know what I mean? So I say that because when, it's like my company name and my company reputation and everything that I do is priceless. There's no amount of money that can offer me doing anything to that name, especially because that's your name on the door.
Yeah, it's Krupske, so I'm second generation. My son is, gonna probably both my sons will probably take over the company, in another 7 to 10 years when I retire.
Right. So I mean, you value that name, and it's having a good name that's going to be able to that's going to stand by the product. Yep. And when you look for licensing, you look for the certifications, you look for all that, you look for a name that's going to stand by it. Yep. And sometimes it costs a little bit more for those names, but the value and peace of mind you get behind that it's worth its weight in gold.
Yeah.
Now, again, you're listening to the Prepare to Repair show with Bob Krupske with Krupske Sprinkler Systems. I'm your host, Plumber Steve, and we are talking sprinkler systems, and you were talking about the self-draining systems. Now, and you were talking about blowouts. What's the difference between the two?
All right. So the blowout systems have been around forever. Before them, they were filled up with antifreeze, so they, prevent them from freezing. So years and years ago, copper lines were installed underground. They were filled with antifreeze, and that's what's prevented them from freezing in the winter. Then they went ahead and they switched over to PVC piping, right, and then they started blowing out systems with air. And contractors, now use black polyethylene pipe, and they still blow it out with air. And we don't blow our systems out anymore. My dad started in 1976. The newest technology back then was a self-draining sprinkler system. Okay. And so ours do not need to be blown out with air. They work by draining themselves with pressure-activated drain valves. So when a system turns on for the day, the drain valves close, heads pop up and spray water. When the system shuts off, the pressure drops down, the heads go back in the ground, those drains open back up, and they drain the water out of the piping.
Okay, let me ask you this. On that a particular system like that, when you have and I'm just using plumbing principles here, when you have a normal system or a standard system, you are retaining that water in there. It's kind of like a check valve on a sump pump.
Yep.
When when the pump goes and discharges, you still have water in that pipe.
Yep.
Now, if that water drains out, does that mean that the whole system has to charge up again to disperse, to basically engage in a sprinkler cycle?
Okay. So when you have a sprinkler system, everything is pitched away from the house. Your lots are not level anymore. Okay. So when you're looking at a standard system that is a blowout system, it is not holding all that water in those pipes, because the low head on that particular zone is going to drain the water that's in the piping by gravity down to a certain level. So you might still lose 50% of the water in a regular system that needs to be blown out with air. Okay. On the self-draining system, you still are going to have the same thing where the low head is going to drain most of the water out, but the water that's sitting in the rest of the pipe that comes out the automatic drains, the drain valves, they sit in clay. And when the drain valves open, the water has to have some place to go. Right. If the clay is wet, it has no place to go. So a lot of it stays inside the piping. And then it wicks out. As the soil dries up and that clay dries out a little bit more, it'll continue to wick. So the drains, they drain very, very slowly. It could take up to a month to drain all the water out of the piping, but it does. So between uses, you're losing a small portion of water.
Oh, okay.
But it might only be a couple hundred gallons of water a year, on an average house. Okay. Even at a couple hundred gallons of water a year, you're going to be $2 in water costs, and it still went into your property.
Okay. So, yeah, because I'm thinking that after every cycle, the thing, you got the valve engaging. It drains everything out, and now you have to recharge the whole system. But it doesn't work like that.
No,
You're still
it's a slow drain.
Okay, it's a slow draining system. Now, what happens on obviously, if a sprinkler head fails, it can just continue to go.
Yep.
What happens if, say, one of the valves, do they fail in a closed position, open position? How do they usually, if they have an issue?
I mean, I've never had a king drain fail. So the king drains come with a lifetime warranty on them. So, and they're made by King products.
Okay.
And they're a simple valve. It's basically a rubber diaphragm that gets smashed over a hole with the water pressure. That's it. So they're super simple, but I've never had any fail. Back in the 70s, they used to be a brass cylinder with a hole at the bottom. And then there was a spring and a BB. The water compressor would come in, push the BB down over the hole and block it up.
Okay.
Manufacturers said, every 10 years, 5 years, dig those up depending on soil conditions and replace them. The systems my dad put in back in the 70s, nobody ever did that. And those systems still have not frozen because the polyethylene pipe that we use today, it'll expand up to 13% without doing any structural damage to the pipe. So even if water's left in it, water when it freezes only expands 7%. It's impossible for the black polyethylene pipe to freeze and break, basically.
Wow. Okay. That's good to know.
Yeah. But blowouts are big revenue. So
yeah, that's what I was going to say, because if you got a self-draining system, you could save people a lot of money on that.
The average blowout, $65 to $100 on an average blowout.
Yeah, but if you don't have to do it.
You don't have to do it.
Right.
So my system, it's literally shut the water off in the basement, go outside and remove the backflow device and bring it in, and you're done.
Wow.
So.
Okay. And now you were saying that obviously you got the self-drain, you got the blowouts. What other types of systems would you say are available out there? I mean, that you have. I mean, if say, you got the standard and you have a self-draining. Are those pretty much the two types that are?
That's it. Yeah. As far as I know, we're the only ones that do a self-draining system on the south side here in our area. Around the country, they're popular, but not in our area.
Why is that?
Nobody's left my company. But when guys start up their own company, they work for somebody, usually. When they take what they learned and they start up in their own. My guys are still with me. Right. So I got guys work with me for 25, 30 years. And they just decided that I pay them well enough to where they don't want to leave. They don't want to deal with the headaches of owning a business.
Well, that's good. I mean, retention is phenomenal, especially when you got a system like this. Now, you were talking about like a smart system and their benefits on that. Now, I know a lot of people are like, well, I don't have a sprinkler system or irrigation system. That sounds like something only, bigger houses have or anything. But, this is not just, this is not something bigger houses have. This is,
it's 3/4 of all new construction residential system gets a sprinkler system.
Really?
Yeah, on new construction. So there's a lot of houses that do irrigation. But the smart systems, you can add a smart system or smart control timer to any system. Doesn't matter the age.
Really?
Yeah. And the smart systems, they will save you water.
Now, did these become obsolete? Because, I noticed once this technology is constantly changing.
Yeah. The piping is going to be the piping. That doesn't change. The sprinkler heads, they need maintenance. They'll last, 10, 12, 15 years, and you'll have to change your sprinkler heads. Mm-hmm. The control timers, the new timers, the smart timers, they're phenomenal. If it's the biggest water saver that you're going to have, and it'll save you a lot of money in byproduct of having a smart system. But they will self-program based on weather conditions.
Okay.
So typically we would recommend that a section waters on the side of the house for 20 minutes, the front yard waters for 40 minutes. The smart timers are going to say, hey, it's 58 degrees today. It's overcast 80% of the day with a 40% humidity. We need to water for 4 minutes on the side and 7 minutes in the front yard. And that's all it does.
Really?
So because it takes into account the weather conditions and it knows through evaporation how much lawn is giving up in water, how much it's using. It monitors the rainfall. So the older systems, you need a rain sensor to shut down the system.
Do you recommend these? If you're installing these, and I'm looking to get one of these, do you recommend these?
We recommend smart systems, yes.
Okay. Now, say I want to get one, and I have my landscape all done.
Uh-huh.
Everything's all done. My whole yard is complete, and I want to get a system there. Is my yard? How do you do that? Do I expect my yard to look like a bomb went off after you're done, or how's this going to look when it's?
So we do about half of our work with existing lawns.
Okay.
So when we have an existing lawn, our machines, they basically drag the pipe underground, with a knife. So the pipe goes down 12 inches deep, and it gets dragged in at 100 feet a minute. So the only thing you see on the top of the ground is a 1/4 inch cut. That's it. Mm-hmm. So when we do the installation at the end of the day, if you stand across the street and you look at your yard, it's hard to tell that anything was done. Really? It's a neat installation.
Yeah, so we dig up sewer lines, depending on where it is, it looks like a bomb went off. So, I mean.
Now, we try to make it, to where you can't tell. And in fact, a lot of times we'll go ahead and install a system, and we get there before the neighbors leave, or right after the neighbors left for work. We'll put the system in, and then the neighbors come home from work, and the new installation is running. And the homeowners are like, "You got a sprinkler system?" And they're like, "Yeah, we got it today." So, wow. People don't know, but it's a fast install. Most days, or most jobs are anything up to an acre is usually 1 day install.
Fantastic. That's pretty cool. I mean, I thought, again, I had no idea how these all go in. I had no idea how elaborate these can get. But then again, technology is changing with everything and making things more efficient. And we're people who maybe didn't think a irrigation system would work for them. Mm-hmm. People are very, very meticulous about their lawns. I've seen people out there with scissors. I mean, I'm not lying. It sounds crazy, but I've seen them out there with scissors and getting it sort of to a certain point, and they would water with hoses and with sprinklers. I think that a system like this would be this would be something for people like that are really meticulous about their lawns and want to keep their property looking good. Now, does this type of system, do they add? Do you find that they add value to the home?
Well, I mean, it does give you curb appeal when you're ready to sell. Right. You can turn it on. You got nice green lawn. So, and now that most houses are getting irrigation systems, if you don't have one, your neighbor probably does. So then you're competing against somebody that doesn't have it. So I don't think that it's not like a kitchen where you're getting 100% back, but I do think that you probably do get a good portion of it back.
It's one less of a headache there. So, if people want to get a hold of your company, Krupske Sprinkler Systems, what's a great number to reach you at?
Telephone number is 815-464-6801, or they can just go on the website. It's just KrupskeSprinklers.com.
And they could find out a lot of the stuff we discussed today. Yep. They could find out, get a little bit more information, and they can actually schedule an appointment for...
we do everything online, too. They can schedule appointments. They can schedule estimates. Everything's online.
And get a ton more information on this. That's excellent. And you're also a plumbing inspector in which towns are they?
Mokina, New Lenox, and Homer Glen. I'm the village inspector there.
Awesome. So you're checking on both ends as far as irrigation, and you're also checking plumbing. You're a plumbing inspector. You're part of the IPIA,
Illinois Plumbing Inspectors Association. I'm the treasurer for the Tri-County chapter.
Awesome. Yes. So you're well versed in the plumbing trade. So everything that we're talking about licensing and what I emphasize on warranties, I mean, that's something that definitely needs to be spoken about.
Yep.
So I want to thank you for being on the show. I appreciate that.
Thank you for having me.
And also next week's guest on the Prepare to Repair show here on WJOL 1340 will be Mac Tracy with Ferguson Supply. Be sure to check out our Prepare to Repair Facebook page as we are doing a tour of the Ferguson showroom in Tinley Park this Wednesday. So you want to head out to Ferguson for all your kitchen, bath, lighting, and appliance needs. Your dream kitchen is as close as Tinley Park. And also, you can check out our website for information on today's guest or to listen to previous shows. So I want to thank everybody for listening and listening every week. Till then, we will see you next week and with Mac Tracy. Have you been over to Ferguson?
No.
You got to check that out. So we're looking really good. And, check us out on Wednesday as